Oh, yeah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 30th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda special.
See the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers, too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link. Yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up. The Legend of Zelda sold separate.
Wow! Nintendo! Super Mario! Chunks! Nintendo! Peanut food flavored crunch! Nintendo! Here's Zelda too! Nintendo! It's very good news! Nintendo! You just can't lose! Nintendo cereal system is a super part of this nutritious breakfast. Nintendo! 2 cereals in 1! Wow!
This is the Triforce of Wisdom, Link. The evil wizard Ganon has the Triforce of Power. Whoever gets both Triforces will rule this land forever. You must help me, Link.
Hey, for you, Zelda, anything.
Hero.
Hey, excuse me, princess.
This golden cartridge that I got on Christmas Day was filled with a lot of fun and full of adventure. So let's get this 30th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda started. Now we're going back in time. I'm taking you back to the year of 1987. The biggest song of the year was the Bangles' Walk Like an Egyptian. And Whitney Houston was singing I Want to Dance with Somebody. And in every arcade, Bon Jovi was playing Living on a Prayer. Every week I was making sure I didn't miss out on the Star Trek The Next Generation that just came on TV. And I was always rushing home from school to make sure I didn't miss the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. We also had some big movies that year such as RoboCop, The Running Man, Spaceballs, Adventures in Babysitting, Batteries Not Included, The Lost Boys, The Prince's Bride, Harry and the Hendersons, and Ernest Goes to Camp. And every 13-year-old couldn't miss out on WrestleMania 3 when Hogan beat Andre the Giant. And one of the biggest moments on Christmas of that year was when I got this game, The Legend of Zelda. Now I'm going to take you back the best I can to that day in 1987. Going back to 1987, back then we still did not have the internet. And we really didn't have video game magazines yet. Now people who grew up in that time, one thing that we always did have was the Sears catalog that our moms would get. Now as you see, the video game section only basically had a small screenshot and the price of the game. But as a little kid, I would be circling the games that sounded interesting. And if I could find any information on them, maybe a commercial. That's basically our next best thing, was commercials back then, because we still didn't have access to video game magazines. So as a 13-year-old kid, I knew every single Transformers page was, every G.I. Joe page, and all the video game section. I just basically tore them out and kept them to myself. So now let's fast forward to Christmas Day of 1987. Little 13-year-old Billy ran to the tree and he saw 3 packages that looked like video games. So he opens up the first one, and what do I get? It's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! And I actually like that game a lot. It's probably in my top 10 of Nintendo games, so I was really happy to get that one. So then I open up the second present, and there is Kid Icarus. Another fantastic game. And so, the third package I opened up turns out to be this, what you see playing, The Legend of Zelda. I open it up, I realize it's The Legend of Zelda. I'm looking at this cool box. I'm reading it, and I read that it has a map inside, and I open it up. I see there is a map inside, and I also see there is this gold cartridge, and I knew that I had something special. It wasn't the standard gray. I was just blown away at how cool it looked. So I run to the Nintendo. I pop in The Legend of Zelda first, because I was really excited to see this game. And so I unfold this map and everything, and I start up the game, and I hear that music. And if you guys know, the music's really iconic, so I play it. I'm sitting there amazed by the music, watching it scroll, looking at, talk about the story. Then it's showing the items and everything. And so I was just blown away by that. And I probably sat there for a good almost 2 minutes watching it before I actually hit start, created my character's name, and then started my adventure. And I actually didn't have any trouble with it. I was very exploring the land of Hyrule, very good at it. Got my sword and went on my quest and started following the map. And turns out the neighbor's kid next door, he also got the same game. So me and him would go back and forth to each other's houses to see where we were at. So Christmas night came, he came by and saw that I had it too, and then he was seeing where I was at. And then I was checking out to where he was at. And I would say by New Year's, I beat the game. Well, actually, no, I take it back. It was like 2 weeks after. Maybe 2.5 weeks I beat the game. And I beat it right before he did. He was still 2 dungeons back. He was stuck somewhere. Then he asked me how I did this or something. And I don't remember what it was. But I helped him with it. And I was just blown away by how fun this game was. Everything from the puzzles, the clues, bombing walls to find secret entrances to rooms and so on. The bushes, you burn the bushes with a candle to find hidden doors, and sometimes you find gold, sometimes you have to pay for damages and so on. The game was just fantastic all around. And back then, people don't realize it, but it was the first game to have an automatic save state. Back then, before that, we were inserting these codes that were like 30 letters long, uppercase, lowercase, and then numbers. And it really sucked back then, because if you lost that paper, you would lose all your save data because you didn't have the code anymore. Or there's been times when I was a kid, I would write it down wrong, or it just didn't work. I think I just wrote it down wrong, but I type in the code like 3 or 4 times and it would say code invalid, and realize that I lost my progress. So it was really annoying. So constantly you were always looking for a pencil or a pen, writing down these codes so you can continue your games. So Legend of Zelda was the first game that didn't have that. It had an automatic save feature built into the game with a battery in the cartridge, so made a big difference. So anyways, yeah, it was a fantastic game. I had a great time playing it. I've probably beaten it 4 or 5 times in the past 6 years alone. I've never beaten the second quest though. I'm playing it right now, and I think I'm on World 6, so that'll be the first time for me to beat the second time around, because once you beat it the first time, then it basically mixes everything up, and you go through the second quest, and everything's moved around, all the dungeons and items and so on. So that's what I'm doing now. Anyways, fantastic game. Lots of memories. So that is my story of The Legend of Zelda. Now I am going to give you guys some facts about The Legend of Zelda. Some things I just learned myself. We had 2 of the best creators working on this game. Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka. The game features a mixture of puzzles, action-adventure, and battle gameplay and exploration. Now let's get on with the facts. Number 1, Nintendo didn't think the game would be popular in America. The president of the time for the American division of Nintendo expressed concern because he didn't think a text-heavy game would do well in the United States. He thought the kids just weren't patient enough to play a text-heavy game. So I'm glad he decided to go with it anyways and try it out, because we would have missed out on a fantastic game. Number 2, the story was inspired by Shigeru Miyamoto's childhood. Miyamoto developed the Enchanted Forest from thinking back when he was a youth living in a small village near Kyoto, where he spent much of his time exploring those woodlands. And he also modeled the puzzling nature of Zelda's many dungeons after his own childhood home, which was filled with indistinguishable paper doors. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda was designed as the anti-Mario. Miyamoto and Takashi developed the games at the same time, and they wanted to make sure that the experiences were totally different from each other. So, they made Super Mario Bros. Point A to Point B, whereas The Legend of Zelda was meant to confuse and provoke creative problem solving in an open world environment. Number 4, Princess Zelda's famous namesake. It was confirmed that she was named after Zelda Fitzgerald, novelist, feminist, and wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald. Number 5, there is also significance to Link's name. Originally, Link was the name because he was going to be the link between worlds, and he could span in a universe in different time periods, beginning from the very past and ending up in the future, and he could use the Triforce as a transport between those worlds, between the time periods. Nintendo's current position on the name Link is between the player and the game. Number 6, a lot of elements were dropped from the original game. Early in the game development, they had a plan to include an option so that the player could design their own dungeons. But ultimately it was scrapped because Nintendo realized that the players enjoyed playing the pre-made dungeons, and creating their own just wouldn't be as fun. Also, in the original Japanese version, the player would have gotten his sword right away, whereas the American version, you have to go to the cave and get your sword. Also, in the Japanese version, they had a working microphone in the controller, and it came in handy for this game because there was an enemy called the Pole's Voice, a rabbit-like ghost that inhabits several dungeons. There was clues in the game that would tell you that this creature hates loud noises, which allowed players to defeat the creature by screaming into the microphone. As you know, the American controllers did not have a microphone built into it, and so that element was dropped from the game. Number 7, Miyamoto took away the sword in the beginning because of all the gamer complaints. Early on with the test players, Miyamoto heard a lot of complaints from the gamers talking about the objectives were unclear. So he decided to take away Link's sword and put it in the cave in the beginning of the adventure. That way, when the players found it, they would spread the word by mouth to other players, and it would make it more clear of the objectives of what to do. Now, number 8, that being said, you don't need the sword really until the very end of the game to beat Ganon. Technically, you can get through the game without the use of Link's sword, and at the very final last fight with Ganon, you have to have the sword to beat him. Now, I have never done this. I didn't know this myself till I read this recently, so something I didn't even know, and maybe I'll try it one day to see if I could beat the game without this. Well, go all the way to the end without the sword, because you get the boomerang, you get the arrows, bombs, but it seems like it would be pretty tedious, but be worth trying to see if it's really possible. Number 9, The Legend of Zelda and Mario Brothers, they share a few elements. The pipe-dwelling piranha plant that's in Super Mario Brothers is also in The Legend of Zelda, and also the warp whistle that's in Super Mario Bros. 3. The sound was developed in association with a recorder device that's found in The Legend of Zelda, so they both share the same sound of that warp whistle. Number 10, the Triforce is actually modeled after a Japanese symbol that was in the 13th and 14th century Japan. It's a very powerful family crest. Hopefully I pronounced the name right, but the symbol is called the Mitsuuroko, which translates to the 3 dragon scales. Number 11, I had no idea, but Nintendo almost went with a different theme song. The original you're hearing is from Koji Kondo. He whipped up this masterpiece that is stuck in everybody's heads forever that's played the game. But the game's creators originally intended to use a French composer, Maurice Ravel's composition Bolero. But Nintendo couldn't nab the rights to that number, so they used the one that we're used to, Koji Kondo, which is this theme song you're hearing, which is stuck in everyone's head forever and ever. So I'm glad they chose this one. Number 12, I didn't know either. Everyone who worked on the game was credited under a different name. The reason being is it was uncommon for game designers back then to get credit for their work. So at the very end, when you see the credits, like Miyamoto, Tezuka, and all of them, they all have different names, like all little code names, because they couldn't use their actual names. So that is very interesting. 13. The Legend of Zelda was the first game to feature a second quest. Even though Super Mario Bros. Sort of did it, where they changed things around a little bit, The Legend of Zelda was the first game to fully switch everything around and make a full new adventure, a new quest. So that is a first for it also. Number 14 is somebody beat the game in a half hour by the name of Lack Attack 24. I could never do that. Anyways, this is my small tribute to The Legend of Zelda, which is a fantastic game. I wanted to talk about it, give my thoughts on the game, how my memories and how I really enjoyed it all through these years, and also give some facts, kind of give it a special 30th anniversary. Anyways, I hope you guys like this episode. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and as always, have a good one. Take care. Have a good one.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Zelda become a legend on your Nintendo Entertainment System.
Zelda! After rocks!
Which way
You go! Good times! Pee hands! Levers! Zelda! Zelda! Zelda!
The Legend of Zelda. A never-ending adventure new for your Nintendo Entertainment System.
Zelda!
Thank you, my friend.